Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After a very full day yesterday, we're going to step back into our playthrough of MAG-23 Guadalcanal by Historic Wings. This one puts us in charge of the Cactus Air Force in the World War II Pacific. And we've actually been having a decent week all told. We are, let's see, so we're on week... Looks like we're actually on the last day of week 2 right now. I didn't even realize that. I've got the calendar up. I've actually got the book open to the tables right now. Conflict is at work, but listening. Hopefully I won't make too much of a mess of this. Let's see. So I'm just trying to tally up where we're at on the week, so I can figure out if I need to plan on being aggressive, or if I can let the pilots, or if I can let the crew rest a little bit. Let's see, the 28th was a win on the day. The 29th was also a win on the day, so that's 2 wins. Stalemate, loss, and win. So actually we have the win locked up for the week. Actually, no, we don't have the win locked up for the week. Yeah, we have 3 wins, a stalemate, and 2 losses. So we probably need to be a little bit aggressive on this one. But I need to be careful because we do have a -1 dice roll modifier from the runway taking a hit in yesterday game terms. So obviously it's been a couple weeks, but in terms of gameplay, yesterday we took a hit on the runway. So hopefully it's a little bit convoluted, but hopefully that all makes sense. So with all of that being said, I think we are set to jump in. So I'll start making our first few rounds of notes. I'll go ahead and get my notepad out so I can get ready to write today's after action report. All right, so combat air patrol. Then we'll need to know weather and the mission type. So those are our first few types of notes that we'll make. So first, as I mentioned, we're scheduling combat air patrol, but as usual, I'm not going to fly a combat air patrol. So we also need to roll for the weather, which could potentially impact how aggressive I want to be. So we're rolling on the weather chart. On this weather chart, it might be, there we go. We can bring that up nice and close. We have to bear in mind that we've got a -1 modifier on the runway already. So if this is bad weather, so if this is too bad a weather, then odds are we're not going to fly this. But let's see what we've got here to start with. That's a 5, which is giving us cloudy weather. So that'll actually cancel. That would be a +1 weather modifier, which will effectively cancel out the -1 on the runway when we get that far. So now we're rolling to see what kind of mission we've got coming at us. This one will not be modified because of there's no weather modifier on this one. So we're rolling on the mission type table next. And I'll warn you right now, Conflict, this is not going to be a radio style presentation like the hockey or any other sports games are. This one's going to be a lot more analytical, me thinking through things. So don't expect the radio style on this one. The mission we've got coming at us, that's a 2. That's a C mission. So now we're rolling for Coast Watcher and Marine Scout reports. I'll go ahead and get my C map ready to go. Land, air. So by process of elimination, of course, the last one is the C map. That should go right about there. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I tempered expectations right off the bat in terms of the presentation style. So we've got our CMAP all set to go. Is it Coast Watcher reports right away? Yes, it is. Okay, so I'll get all of these ready. We've got Bougainville, New Georgia, Santa Isabel, Savo Island, West Guadalcanal. So now we're rolling on this table in phase 3 for the Coast Watcher Marine Scouts, and we're rolling for sea missions. And the way I'm going to roll these is I've got 5d6 here that I'm going to be rolling. Oops. Let's actually make sure we hold all 5d6 in our hands this time, Phoenix. So we've got our 5d6 that we'll be rolling, and in the tower, I'm going to read them from the closest one further back. So the first die that's at the front will be the report for Bougainville. Next one will be New Georgia, and so on. Okay, looks like we should get some pretty good intel here. So the 3 is on West Bougainville. That's not giving me anything to work with. New Georgia is a 6. That one's giving me +2 on Seggy Point. Let's see, next one is another 6 on Santa Isabel. That's +2 Toonie Bully. Then the next one back is a 4. That's giving me +1 Mountain above Panueli. So we've got some very good intel on this one. And West Guadalcanal, no report there. And now, normally we blow through the SCR 270 radar plots. So sighting modifiers produced in 3 and 4 only apply when we're sighting the final force. So now for the first time, we're rolling on this chart for the SCR 270 radar plot, and we roll for air and sea missions. This one is a sea mission. So for this one, it appears we want to roll low. So we'll grab the dice out of shot. I actually want that 3, I think. We'll see what we can do with that. That's a 2, so we get a good radar plot, which will give me +2. So +2 sighting. So that'll be giving me a total modifier of +7 when that'll give us a total modifier of +7 when we get to the sighting, when we go to see if the reports are accurate. So let's see what we've got coming at us. This is reported Japanese force. So now we're rolling on phase 5 for the sea. There's a table here for each separate type of mission. There's an air mission table, land mission, and sea. We're rolling on the sea mission table. I believe there's a... Okay, so that's probably why there's a plus on that one. So we apply modifiers from the perimeter status track, which there's no modifier here since we've got an uncertain balance as of yet. So we'll grab our die and see what we've got coming at us. Odds are we may try to go up on this one, especially with intel looking really good. But we'll see. That's a 1. Ooh, I'm not sure if we want to go up on that one. So that's a cruiser task force. Which is 1 CG, 2 destroyers. So a cruiser group, 2 destroyers, actually 3 destroyers, and 2 transports. I'm not going to, even though I've got a +7 modifier on my intel, I'm not going to start laying everything out yet. So we'd be on the cruiser task force. Okay, so that's what's reported. Now we're looking at assigning pilots and aircraft. Where's my roster? So I definitely want anything that's going to be good at bombing and strafing, which means I'll probably give the Wildcats the day off. Well, I'll give the Wildcats the mission off anyway. Let's see. Who do we want here? So we probably want Dauntless and Airacobras going up on this one. How have we not let any of these guys go up yet? Okay, so let's see what the VMSB guys can do. So we'll give them a So we'll send up some SBDs. I'll send CO Stanley we'll give him Lieutenant Monroe on wing. Then we'll go Flight Leader Berg with Lieutenant Meyer on wing. We'll go Flight Leader Robinson with Lieutenant Martinez. Let's see. I think that we'll go for one more element from there. I'm not going to send Lemons up my XO yet. Let's go Lieutenant Downs with Lieutenant Perez on wing. I'm just looking over my roster here. Let's see, some more Dauntless. Let's go. Let's see. This is September 3rd. So we'll put some more Dauntless up. So VB6. Let's go Flight Leader Young with Lieutenant Rain on wing. We'll go one more element there. I want to see if I can put some Airacobras up as well. Some Airacobras. These are all still Dauntless. Then we'll go CO Sage with Lieutenant Cactus on wing. All right, let's see if I can put a couple elements of Airacobras up as well. And I think we can. So this is from the 67th FS. We'll put a pair of elements up here if we can as well. Let's go. We'll go Lieutenant Talon with Nightwing on wing. And then we'll go. My COs have had horrible records, so I don't want to put them up yet. Yeah, let's go. All right, let's go Lieutenant Carter with Lieutenant Matrix on wing. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elements, so that'll cost me 16 fuel, which is probably a little bit more than I should be spending, but we'll go with it. Okay, so now I've got to prepare for takeoff rolls. This is all going to be straight rolls, so hopefully, I'm watching you, Henderson Field. You better not start doing nasty things to me here. So we'll go Stanley, Monroe, Berg, Meyer, Robinson, Martinez, Downs, Perez, Young, Rain, Sage, Cactus, Talon, Nightwing, Carter, and Matrix. And as usual, I am scatterbrained and didn't note anything in my pilot log. So let me do that here real quick. All right, so from, who did we send up from the 67th? We sent up Talon on the 3rd. So Talon on C mission, Nightwing, Carter, and Matrix. Told the Wildcats to kick rocks on this one. Well, not kick rocks, take the day off. Let's see, from 231, we sent Stanley, Monroe, Berg, Meyer, Robinson, Martinez, Downs, and Perez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then I believe our last squadron, or last part of the Air Force was VB6. Yes. Right, from that one we sent Young, Rain, Sage, and Cactus. Okay, now that we've got that all taken care of, now we're ready to go into takeoff rolls. So here, just checking in on my phone. So now we're rolling 2d6 on the takeoff and landing accidents chart. We have a -1 from the runway being cratered yesterday, but a +1 because of the weather, so the two modifiers cancel each other out. We want to see a 7, well, actually, even a 6 is tolerable, because we'll at least lose them for the first box. We would prefer to see a 7+ on as many of these rolls as we can. Henderson Field, I'm looking at you. Don't do nasty things today. First up, we've got Stanley, the CO of... Stanley's the CO of one of our squadrons. He's the CO of VMSB 231. Let's see what we get here. That's a 10. He's off the ground. So that means we already need at least one Dauntless element. Let's see if there's a CO chit in here. There should be. I'm probably going to need at least a few of these. Next up, we're looking at Monroe, who's supposed to be Stanley's wingman. Let's see if Monroe can get up in the air. That's Boxcars. Monroe is off the ground. So those two will join up. Next up, we've got Berg to see if he gets off the ground. He's a flight leader in VMSB 231. That's a 5, which is not something we want to see. So he'll crash. Insignificant damage. And then the way I roll for these is I'll roll, if I'm going to roll this, is I'm going to roll blue for the injury, orange for the number of days out in case we need that. We have on a 4 to 6 on the blue, we have no injury, so we'll ignore the orange die. That's a 5 on the blue die, so we'll ignore the injury there. Next up, we've got Meyer trying to get off the ground. That's a 6. He's going to skid off. He'll join us in the second task box. And now we've got Robinson. That's a 6. See previous result. Martinez. That's a 5. He's going to crash as well. Once again, we want to see at least a 4 on the blue die. Which we don't. That's a light wound. He's out for 5 days. Probably with a concussion or something. Downs. So Martinez probably got knocked silly from that. That's an 8. Downs is off the ground. Perez. That's a 6. He'll skid off again. Young coming up next. That's an 11. He's off the ground. Rain. Let's see what he does. So we need an element. Young's another Dauntless. Young's not anything special to the squadron, is he? He's a flight leader. So we need a flight leader chit for him. I thought there was one in here. Ah, here we go. Flight leader. Okay. Now for Rain to see if Young gets his wingman. That's a 7, just barely, but he will. Oop, that's not the one I wanted to flip. That is. So next we've got Sage trying to get off the ground. He's a CO of that squadron. That's a 5. We've had, so that's a crash. Insignificant damage to the plane. Very much repairable though. And a light wound, out 3 days. I'm going to fold that notebook out since I'll be putting together some new elements. Cactus. That's an 8. Cactus is off the ground. Talon. That's a 7. He's off the ground. Nightwing. That's an 8. He's off the ground. So we need... So far we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total elements. Let me just double check what I need here. So we're now just starting to get into the P4, starting to get into the Aarakocras. That should be a pair. We should have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I think okay. So that's all SBD. This is P400. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need another. So immediately we need one more element, one more full element of Dauntless. Do we have a C? Are we going to end up with a? Well, let me get everything airborne, and then I'll figure out what all I need in terms of CO and flight leader chits and all of that fun stuff. So we've got Carter up next, trying to get off the ground. That's a 3. Uh-oh. So that's a 3 for Carter. Crash. Aircraft damaged. And on a 3, okay, so we need... So we're going to roll blue for the injury and orange for the duration as usual. A blue on the 1 die, a 1 or a 2 on the blue die means A, KIA, and serious wound respectively, and B, ignore the orange die. The orange die will only be relevant if we roll a 3 and up. Wow! I don't know how Carter's going to walk that one off. That's a light wound and he's out 1 day. All right, last up we've got Matrix trying to get off the ground. That's a 4. He's not getting off the ground either. That'll be a crash. Aircraft damaged. And as usual, and once again, we'll roll it the same way. This time on a 4, a 1 or a 4 and up means, on the blue, means we ignore the orange die. Because a 1 will be a serious wound, 4 to 6 is no injury. Whereas a 2 to 3 on the blue would be a light wound, in which case we check the orange die for how long he's out. That's a 6, so he walks that one off. Okay, so now we've got to set up our new elements. So we're going to have, so we need, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going up. We've got 3 elements of, we're going to have 3 SBD, 3 Dauntless elements. And 1 joining us in task box 2. And then we have 2 Aarakocra elements. Well, the task box, the element, actually we've got another, Perez is in a Dauntless as well. So we've got another SBD T2. So those are easy. So we'll have we'll have Flight Leader Robinson with Meyer joining us in task box 2. I'll put them off to the side. We'll also have Perez joining us alone. So he's in a Dauntless as well. There we are. We'll put him off to the side alone. All right, then I think we had, nope, I was going to say, I thought we'd have a P400 skidding off and joining us later, but we don't. So Talon is so we'll end up with Lieutenant Talon with Nightwing. Which means we should have a single element of P400s, and we do. So we don't need that one. As for the SBDs, Stanley and Monroe will form up as planned. So I've got a CO element there, so we're good there. Then we have Downs. We'll have Lieutenant Downs pick up with Young. That'll be our new element, so that's another element of SBDs. I thought we had a flight leader that managed to get up right away. Maybe we didn't. And I was just misreading that. Yeah. I think we just misread that. So this is why I'm kind of tallying these up later. So we've got CO Stanley with Monroe as planned. Well, Berg will be... Oh, right, Berg crashed out. Then we do have a flight leader joining us later. Flight leader Robinson with Myers joining us in task box 2. Stanley and Monroe. Downs picking up with Young. And we'll have Lieutenant Rain pick up with Cactus. And I think that's everybody. Let me just run through that again. CO Stanley with Monroe on wing. We've got Meyer and Robinson joining us in task box 2. Downs picking up with Young. Rain and Cactus together. All right, and then we've also got Perez, who's joining up alone later. And then Talon with Nightwing for the Airacobras. Okay. Looks like we got that all sorted out. Sorry for the delays there in getting all of that hammered out. But now I think we are good to see if we can sight the final Japanese force. We had pretty good intel on this one. We had a +7 on... We had a +7 between... Actually, so we should have 4 elements out now. Let me just make sure there are no flight leaders. There are not. No flight leaders, but we have 1 coming in later. Okay. So now we have to see if the final report is accurate. So we've got the sighting table here that we're rolling. We're rolling a plus. What are we rolling here? We're actually rolling a plus. Yeah, it's going to end up being a total of +7 from our modifiers. So it's a 2d6 roll. And remember, this is +7. That's a 6 + 7 is 13, so the report is accurate. Which means now we get our ships out, and we had 1 cruiser group. Actually, we do need 2 transports as well. And 3 destroyers. 1, 2, 3. We probably just use a CA for the cruiser group. Good morning from Spokane, Washington. Morning, Jay. You're just in time to watch me set up our sea mission here in MAG-23 Guadalcanal. Okay, so that's what our plane group is walking into. We will have, oh boy. Okay, so we're rolling for anti-air first. The Japanese are going to get a lot of dice at this. So they're getting 2, 4, 6, 9 dice. Yikes. We'll roll. All right, we're going to have to use 2 different colors here so I can separate out the hits that we might be inflicting. So fortunately, we don't have any battleships, which is a relief. You've been needing to get this game to the table. Hopefully, watching some of my playthroughs of this can help out with making sense of it, although I do make some mistakes on occasion. So we're going to roll. So here's how we're going to do that. We don't have any land-based anti-air to worry about, so there's at least that. The destroyers each get 2d6s, and we've got 3 of them. So we'll roll red and black for the cruisers, right? For the destroyers. They hit on 6s, right? Yes. And then we'll roll orange for the cruisers. They need a 5 or a 6. Okay. So DD, CA. And then I'm going to set this up. Actually, let's do, we'll do it like this. 3 and 4, just in case I need to determine what elements are going to be dealing with any hits. So let's see what we roll here for the anti-air from the Japanese. Okay, so the destroyers were rolling the red dice. They roll 3, 3, 4, 6, 6. Actually, there should be one more die. 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So they score 2 hits. And then the destroyers roll, and then the cruiser groups roll a 1, 2, and 4, which is no hits. So here's how I'm going to roll for defense. This is what I set the blue dice out for. So we'll roll a blue die for which plane is going to be affected, or for which element. Blue element. Then we'll roll teal for the plane, or for which pilot. And that one, a 1 to 3 will be the main pilot. 4 to 6 will be the wingman. And then straight black will be the defense result. Thankfully, we only have to roll for 2 hits. And on the blue dice, 5 and 6s are rerolls. And fortunately, my life is going to be easy on the straight defense roll because everything defends on a 3 and lower. So we've got 2 hits we need to roll for. So our first hit will be going to we didn't have somebody coming in alone on this first group, did we? No. Okay. All right, so that one is going to be on the first Dauntless group, which has the CO in it. The 2 says it will be affecting Stanley. And the 3 on the black die says Stanley will defend. So very nicely done there. And then for the other hit that we have to roll, that is going to affect this element of Dauntless. That'll be affecting the rain cactus element. The 2 says it's affecting rain, and the 1 says he defends. well. So very nicely done there. We are on combat operations, by the way. So looking at what we've got here, the Dauntless can all bomb once and then they've got to turn and head for home, whereas the Airacobras can both bomb and strafe. So just to make sure I have the order straight, so now we're in the cruiser task force. There were no planes that we had to worry about on this one. So let's see, anti-air, so we did that. No dogfight to worry about. So bombing is the thing we roll next. Who all can bomb? Looks like both of them can bomb. So bombing will be for everybody. We get an extra 2d6. Yes, 2d6. So we'll be rolling. So here's how we're going to do that. So we'll roll blue dice for the Airacobra's bombing hits, and we'll roll orange for the Airacobra. So we get 3, 4, 5 blue d. Actually, yeah, 3, 4, 5 blue d6. Hold on. Did I just give them the wrong thing? Hold on. Dauntless actually defend on a 1, so I think both of them actually got shot down. Stanley, I think, at least got shot down. Rain was able to defend. So Stanley's in a Dauntless. Yeah, he defends on a 1, so I did do that wrong. So Stanley actually got shot down, which will be 2 VP for the Japanese, and we need to roll for his fate, if he is able to bail out or not. So bear with me a second. Realize I had a little bit of a screw up. Then pilot bail out on a ship attack. I've got a table behind me, and Stanley's been killed in action already. That's great. And we lose an Airacobra. So Rain did defend on a 1. Delightful. So we actually don't have the CO in that element anymore. Great. So now that kind of changes the math a little bit. Now we've got 3d6 for the Airacobras, or yeah, for the Dauntless actually. They'll be rolling in blue, and the P400 will roll in teal. So we've got 3d6, 3 blue, and 1d6 for the 1 element of Airacobras. And on bombing runs, so bombing for the Dauntless, we need a 3, and then on the Airacobra, we need a 2. Let's see what we roll here. Okay, so was that a 3 and lower? Let me just double check that. Attack, defend, bomb, strafe. Okay, so looks like they roll that. I'm starting to second guess myself a little bit here. Let me just go into, let me see if there's an example of play on the bombing or strafing run. For bombing hits on rolls of 3 to 6. Okay, actually, the aircraft, well, all right, I think we were probably concentrating on trying to take out the cruiser group, I think, most likely, since that's the biggest immediate threat. Yeah, we'll concentrate on the cruiser. So the Dauntless rolled a 2, 3, and a 5, which, again, second guessing myself just a little bit. So, okay. Let's see, so they score bombing hits on 3 to 6. So the target would suffer 3 successful bombing hits. Okay, so the SBD, we established that the Dauntless hit on a 3, so they pick up 2 hits and generate 3 victory points per. So that's 6 USVP. The Airacobra hits on a 2, which that'll be another successful hit. And that will be another 2 victory points, it looks like, right? Yes. So that's another 2 victory points for the US. And now we've got 3 hits that we need to score out. First, we'll roll for the Airacobra hits. That's where we've got the... Actually, the Airacobra is actually a little bit easier to do because we only have the 1 element. So we'll roll blue for the element that's going to score the hit, and then the teal die is going to be for which pilot gets the hit. 1 to 4, it's the main one. 5 and 6, it's the wingman. With the exception, if the blue die is a 1, then Monroe will score that hit. All right, that is a 1, so Monroe will pick up that hit for the Dauntless. And then for the other hit on the... So we've scored 1 hit on the cruiser group. Let me bring the hit shit over here. So that's 1 hit on the cruiser group. And then, wow, Monroe looks like he must have hit Monroe must have hit an ammo dump or something on that cruiser. And then for the Airacobra element, we'll just roll this one because there's only 1 element of Airacobras. That's a 4, so that'll be Talon who picks up that hit. So I'll update that in the log. Let's see, so Talon picks up a hit. Monroe is going to score 2. Once I find where... Here we are. And then we've got strafing, which is going to be which is only for the Airacobra. So they hit again on a 2. And we're still aiming at the same cruiser, so we have 3 hits there. We want this to be a 2 or higher. That's a 2, so we score a strafing hit as well. Which means that cruiser is actually going to end up, once I find my hits, I believe a 4 hits on a cruiser is going to put that in the drink. And 4... Oh no, it's on fire. So it's on. So we left it. So we're going to leave it on fire at the very least. But let's see who scores the hit. That will once again be Talon. So the Airacobras can hang around and strafe again. We've got this cruiser very much on fire. The question, though, is since we've only got... So since these 3 Dauntless elements have to break off and head for home. So the Dauntless break off. Now the question I need to figure out is, with another pair of elements joining us, do I feel like getting them hacked out of the sky? And I think the answer to that question, given that we're coming into that kind of this kind of an anti-air barrage, we left the cruiser on fire, but it still can very much inflict a lot of damage. And I think the answer to that question is going to be... No. I think we're all going to just turn around and head for home. Because like I said, I don't feel like walking more Dauntless into that kind of a barrage. That's another... So the strafing will be another 2 USVP. So we are going to turn, so actually not just SBDs, everyone's going to break off. Because I don't feel like having my pilots walk into that kind of a barrage. So now we'll get ready for landings for who all got off the ground. We had 11 pilots got, oh, for Christ's sake. I think we can actually go. Hopefully I didn't lose any of you guys with OBS blipping a little bit there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm just making notes for my landings. Stanley, of course, got... Oh, wait, we actually have 10 pilots because Stanley got shot down. That's right. Monroe, Downs, Young, Rain, Cactus, let's see, Robinson, Meyer, Talon. We better get both Talon and Monroe down on the ground nice and clean. Nightwing and Perez. If we disabled that cruiser group, I may have let the other elements come in, but I don't feel like I said, I don't much feel like getting them chewed up. Especially since we still have a pretty heavy air barrage coming in. So now we're moving into, so we actually kind of blew through that. We're going to go into landings. So first up we'll see if Monroe can get on the ground. We're back on the landings table that we rolled on earlier. That's a 6. He's going to skid off, but otherwise it'll be a good landing. Downs. Four, that's a problem. Crash, AC damage, crash. Okay, so that was a 6, 4. And once again, I'm going to roll for this in my usual way. Blue for the injury, orange for the duration if I need it. I would prefer, though, to see a 4 to 6 on the blue die. That's a 3, so that's a light wound. He'll be out for 1 day. Now for Rain. That's an 8. Rain's on the ground. That was also a 4. Actually, I think that was Downs who was out 1 day. So Young with an 8. He's on the ground. Now for Rain. Didn't mean to jar the camera. Sorry about that. That's a 9. Rain is also on the ground. Cactus. With a 3. Uh-oh. That's a problem. Crash, aircraft damaged. In goes the orange die. Two is a serious wound, so Cactus will end up being transferred out. That's problematic. Now over to Robinson, who's going to see if he's got a good landing. That's a 5. That'll be a crash, insignificant damage. Excuse me. Two is a light wound. Robinson will be out for 2 days. Meyer. That's a 7, just barely, but he's on the ground. Talon's another pilot we better get on the ground. He put in some good work for us. Almost taking out that cruiser group. Almost taking out that cruiser. That's a 9. He gets on the ground. Nightwing. That's a 5. Crash, insignificant damage. And the roll as usual. Three is a light wound, out for 4 days. And Perez. That's a 6. He'll skid, but otherwise it's a good landing. And that's it for our mission, our first mission. Let's see if we get charged with another one. So now we're looking at this additional mission table, and I want a high roll on this one. It just makes the stream a little bit easier to separate out if I don't have too many additional mission days. Except that's a 2, so we do have another mission coming at us. So that means we loop all the way back to phase 1 and start again, I believe. Yes. Once again, I'll tell the Combat Air Patrol that they're not going up. Weather. Six, we've got clear skies this time. Which makes me think we're probably going to have an air mission coming at us. And we actually have a plus, so that'll net out to a +1 modifier on the runway to cancel that out. So it actually cleared up very quickly. Let's see what mission type we have coming at us. Translation, likely an air mission. But we do have a +2 modifier on this, though. Three plus 2 is 5. Color me unsurprised. That's an air mission. All right, so now we've got our Coast Watcher and Marine Scout reports. I'll set those up all over. In Georgia. If you guys have any questions too, feel free to ask away in terms of whether it's about gameplay or why I'm doing some of the stuff I do. I do try to explain it, but sometimes I get into the flow of the game and I don't always explain what I'm doing. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting up in my logbook for the Coast Watcher and Marine Scout reports. But I'll go ahead and start cleaning up the sea mission since it looks like I'll go ahead and switch everything out for an air mission since that's what we've basically got coming at us now. There we are. And we've got our 2, 4, 5 dice. Okay. Actually, if I want to speed it up even more, I could throw in another different colored die for the radar plot. Maybe I'll do that in the future. Anyway, 6 for Bougainville is giving me a +1 on North Point and Boone. Morning, Historic Wings. You just saw that I've been flying this for an hour and I missed it until now. Well, funnily enough, I'm setting up recon for my second mission, which is a little annoying, but I can live with that ultimately. Let's see, New Georgia, we'll take the 6 for that. That's a +2 on Segi Point. I'm hoping this won't be too much of a disaster. Let's see, nothing on Santa Isabel or Savo Island. Oop. And then the 4 is also giving me nothing from West Guadalcanal. That's unfortunate, but no help for it at this point. I do get another roll on the SCR-270 radar plot because it's our first day with it, so clearly we're putting this thing through its paces today. Again, I'm hoping for a low roll. So a 3 is not terrible intel, so another +2 on a good radar plot. I'm sure we can make that better, though. And then we've got then we're rolling on the air mission table. So we're looking at another +5 modifier on intel. We've got the SCR-270 setup. That should help a lot. That's the hope anyway. Today is the 3rd of September, 1942. And surprisingly, Henderson Field so far has behaved itself today. We haven't had anybody get victimized by the Henderson Field boss today. That's a 1. Uh-oh. Which means our intel is probably good on this one. So this is the reported force. Let's see, 12 Bettys. Master Sergeant Dermot McDonnell is on the job. Well, for now he is anyway. You know how I tend to go through bodies pretty quickly here in Guadalcanal. 18 zeros with a double ace. Yikes. Oh boy. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. That's our reported Japanese force. So now the question is, So we are going to be able to get at some of those bombers. The question is, if we trust the intel, do we just hack at the bombers and turn for home? Because I really don't feel like getting swarmed by that many planes. Big incoming air raid, 12 Bettys and 18 zeros with a double ace. Yeah, my thinking right now is my thinking right now, and you can probably tell me, you'll probably tell me I'm an idiot for thinking this, Thomas, but my thinking right now is we fly a close range interception to get a shot at the bombers, and then when the fighters join the party, we basically turn and immediately subscribe to the Gitfo plan. That's my initial thought. So I guess that depends on how much I trust the intel. And with a +5 modifier, I probably should trust it. We also got a +2 we also got an effectively +2 modifier. We're -1 from the runway, but the clear weather gives us actually, so it's effectively a +1 modifier. I can't do math today, apparently. So it's effectively +1, which means Henderson Field is a lot less likely to do Henderson Field things today. So if we're assigning pilots, this is definitely Wildcat Day. This is definitely, well, this is Wildcat afternoon. Let's put it that way. Let's see. So with that in mind, we'll put up a few elements of Wildcats. Let's go with, now that I'm actually knowing I can pay attention to my squadrons, let's go from the VMF 224 squadron. Go for a few of those. We'll put XO Barber with Lieutenant Pawlowski on wing. And we are flying close. Like I said, I want to try to hack those bombers down, and then when the fighters swarm in, then we immediately turn and head for home. Weather's clear on this one, which is how I'm getting to the effectively +1 from the -1 modifier on the runway. Just so you know, I'm not completely crazy in my math. Let's see, air, and who did I put with him? I think I gave him Pawlowski on wing. Let's go with Westing as well. He's a flight leader. With Lieutenant Knox on wing. Fuel situation, I used 16 fuel earlier, so I'm still well north of 100, and I don't think I've flown a single cap since I started this. I do have 5 more coming in. I did have 5 more coming in. So fuel situation is still relatively good, but again, I'm more worried about the numbers right now that we've got coming in than like weather or fuel situation. Like I said, my initial plan is to take a shot at the bombers and then immediately Gitfo. Let's see. So let's go Lieutenant Pox with Fern on wing. I think we can spare 1 more. Problem is that 12 Bettys can score a lot. Yeah, that's the other thing I'm kind of worried about, but I guess I thought if we at least, with the 12 Bettys, which is part of why I want to try to chew those bombers up if I can. And that's part of the reason I'm thinking I want to try to roll a close range interception so we can try to drive the bombers off and then turn for home once we get rid of the bombers. Why not fly as many Wildcats as I can? That's also a fair consideration, and since Henderson Field seems to be behaving itself, I guess I'm thinking ahead, because I guess I'm thinking I want to avoid getting into a situation where I'm having to limp along on fuel deliveries. So I'm trying to preserve fuel for when I'm going to need it more when the fighting gets heavier later on in this campaign. So I'm kind of trying to strike a balance, because if I expend too much now, then what happens later on? But it's definitely a fair consideration. So let's go. Let's see. unless we score a lot of successful that's probably the problem. So I think we are going to have to put a fair number up just to have the best chance of trying to mow through as many of those Bettys as we can. So let's go Lieutenant Cook, and that's only going to cost me 1 fuel per element I put up on the close range interception. So yeah, I think we're probably just gonna have to try to swarm these guys, especially if I think the intel is probably reliable. So for everybody except Historic Wings, I apologize that I'm kind of rambling on that a little bit, but I'm also kind of thinking out loud what I want to do here. Plus, sometimes it's nice to have a sounding board to tell me I'm not completely crazy on some of these ideas. So we're going Cook with Miller on wing. This could be the defining battle of the week, one for the history books. Well, let's hope we go into the history books for the right reason in that case. We'll go Lieutenant Netrunner. I think everybody in the pagoda is begging me to be aggressive. And I think I'm probably going to work into the story detail where Ruff is probably going to end up kicking Shadow's ass because he promised that if Shadow didn't keep his ass in bed, Ruff was going to give him a beating. But unfortunately, Shadow is still a little under the weather with dysentery. Let's go Mosier on wing. And I think that is pretty much it. A lot of decision making, though it's subtle. Never just fighting the current air battle. You're always focused on the long game. And that's a lot of the reason, and we talked about that a little bit when I was brainstorming, but that's why I was kind of hesitant on trying to swarm a lot of these craft. Because knowing we've got heavy numbers coming at us, that was what was making me hesitant on that. Let's see, so I definitely don't want any of the Airacobras or the Dauntless. They're all staying firmly on the ground. Even if I have to chain those guys to their bunks, they're staying on the ground for this one. Can I spare one more element out of that squadron? I think we are going to have to go all hands on deck for this one. So let's go. I already put Barber up. Chase is still out with a light wound. I think we'll put Lieutenant Hunter with Fox on wing. That should be almost everybody from that squadron who's available to fly. So Erker Pawlowski, Westing, Knox. I'm just going to make some notes here to see who all I've got right now. Pox and Fern. Cook and Miller. Netrunner and Mosier. Hunter and Fox. Oh, look at that. I can actually make 2 more elements out of this squadron. So let's go Barnes with Page and Scarborough with Wright. I'm going to be putting a lot of bodies into this one. But I'm also going to take a quick drink because I've been talking for way longer than I usually am. So that squadron's got there's no pretty much about it. That group is all hands on deck. Now what about the main group? Ruff could go up. So that's a VMF 223. It's the World Series with potential losses from a huge bombing raid in the balance. Yeah. I think we're pretty much all in on this one. So we're putting Rough from the main squadron. We're putting Rough up with Nightmare. So Rough just coming back from his wound and Nightmare. Then we've got, we'll put Inferno with Sub-Zero on wing. And can we spare one more element? I think, actually, Inferno's a flight leader. I forgot I had to bring somebody up. And it was Inferno that I brought up. I think we can actually go Flash with Hell. And that'll be our last element. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 fuel. That's a lot of fuel to be sinking into this run. Fortunately, it's clear skies, though, so now let's note for takeoffs. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Fortunately, it's all Wildcats, so that'll make the dice rolling easier, I think. Theoretically, anyway. And I'm going to get off my feet for a little bit so I can make my notes for takeoffs. Let's see, Pawlowski, Westing, Knox, Hawks, Byrne, Cook, Miller, Netrunner. If you guys want to start sending some good vibes to Henderson Field to behave on this run, now would be a great time for that, and that would be greatly appreciated. I'm just making my notes of getting everybody ready for our takeoffs, as everybody is just buzzing around the airfield. The +1 might well make all the difference here between getting everybody off the ground and, well, getting some of us off the ground and getting none of us off the ground. Nightmare, Inferno, Sub-Zero, Flash, and Hell. Alrighty then. Well, we are all hands on deck at the... Bring that up. We're all hands on deck here. We're getting ready for a close range interception. And let's get our takeoffs going. We're going to be at this part for a while. We're rolling. We've got a +1 modifier on this. So Barber up first. Up in the tower. 4 and 2 is a 6, +1 is a 7. Barber's off the ground. And he was an EXO. So we'll get an element of Wildcats ready, along with an EXO chit, if I can ever find it in here. I'm just going to dump this out. Here we go. Let's see if his wingman can join him. Pawlowski. That's a 4 +1 is 5, so he's going to crash. Fortunately, insignificant damage. We'll grab the orange die as usual. We want to see a 4 and up, so Pawlowski walks it off. That's a 3, so that'll be a light wound. He's out for 6 days. Westing up next. That's a 10 plus 1 is 11. Westing's off the ground. I'm going to make a note here for new elements. Knox trying to get off the ground next. Seven plus 1 is 8. Knox is off the ground. Pox. With a 9 plus 1 is 10. Pox is also off the ground. Fern. Eight plus 1 is 9. Fern is off the ground. I like to think a descendant of Dr. Carolyn Fern, if you're familiar with the Arkham Horror files. We also need we need 3 more elements of Wildcats. One is going to be a single for now. Oop, not Aarakocra. Wildcat. We'll go single, or we'll go double, double, single, as we put it upside down. Cook up next. Five plus 1 is 6. Cook will skid, but he'll join us in task box 2. So we'll grab a single element of Wildcats and put that one off to the side. Over to Miller. That's an 11 plus 1 is 12. Miller's off the ground. So we can flip that over. We should have 1, 5, 6. We shouldn't have any doubles yet, I don't think. Actually, we should have 3 doubles right now. That one should be flipped over. All right, I'll put that to the side because I better need it. Oop, let's actually get the dice in the cup so Netrunner can roll his takeoff. Wow, I'm not with it today, clearly. That's a 7 plus 1 is 8. Netrunner's off the ground. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we need that 4th Wildcat element. Mosier. Seven plus 1 is 8. Mosier's off the ground. And Hunter is up next. That's an 8 plus 1 is 9. Hunter's off the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we need another element of Wildcats. And this one should be a single right now. Over to Fox. Six plus 1 is 7. Fox is off the ground. Barnes. Hang on just a second. I thought I heard a notification on my Discord from my PC. Be right back. I did hear something, but we have more pressing business than that right now. We've got Barnes trying to get off the ground. 5 plus 1 is 6. Barnes will skid off and join us in task box 2. Page up next. That's an 8 plus 1 is 9. Page is off the ground. Scarborough. Nine plus 1 is 10. Scarborough's off the ground. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I should have 6 doubles of Wildcats. There we are. Next up, we've got Wright trying to get off the ground. This is going to be quite the party in. This is going to be quite the party in the air, that's for sure. That's an 8 plus 1 is 9. Wright's off the ground. Ruff's a CO. He'd better get off the ground. He's wanting to be in on this action as well. That's a 4 plus 1 is 5. Unfortunately for Ruff, he's going to crash. Insignificant damage. And he's just coming off a wound, too. Hopefully he doesn't go right back on the shelf. He will, and he's out for 5 days. Ouch. Nightmare. The CB chief walks in and says, the runway is no problem, except for that pilot error. Maybe our job is done here. I'm telling that CB to zip it and keep his ass parked right where he is. 10 plus 1 is 11. Nightmare's off the ground. Over to Inferno. Uh-oh. 2 plus 1 is 3. That's a problem. Aircraft damaged. That's bad. Let's see what happens with Inferno. This is a situation where I want to need the orange die. Unfortunately, I do not need the orange die. That'll be a serious wound, and Inferno will be transferred out. Sub-Zero. So we'll need another flight leader coming out of this. Five plus 1 is 6. He'll skid off and join us in task box 2. Let's grab another unit of Wildcats. Then over to Flash. Four plus 1 is 5. Flash is also going to crash. Insignificant damage. And a 1 on a 5 is a light wound. He's out 3 days. Last pilot up is Hell. That's a 7 plus 1 is 8. Hell's off the ground. Okay, so we need another single element, presumably of wildcats. So now I've got to figure out my new elements. So bear with me while I do that. Let's see, so we need a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 5, 8, 10 elements. And 2 of them are joining in task box 2. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these are task box 2. These will be relatively easy. So we'll go Lieutenant Cook with, who else get it off? Barnes. And Sub-Zero. So they'll skid off and join later. Let's see, then we've got Exo Barber with Westing, actually was Westing's a flight leader. I think I'll split them up. We can spread the extra dice love around. We'll put Barber with Knox. We'll have Westing pick up Pox. We'll have Fern and Miller hook up. Netrunner and Mosier will join up. Hunter with Fox. Page with Scarborough. Wright with Nightmare. Wright with Nightmare, and looks like Hell is alone. So he'll pick up a wingman probably in task box 2, I think is how we'll do that. Okay. Sorry that all took so long. I put a lot more pilots up than I was originally going to. So now we find out if I was right to put this many up. We find out if I was right in trusting this intel. So we have a plus 5 total on our modifiers. We have +3 from our Coast Watcher reports and +2 from the radar plot. Let's see if the report is accurate. That is a 7 plus 5 is 12, so report is accurate. Oh, this is going to be fun. So we need, let's see, so that was going to be, that's a giant raid. So 12 Bettys. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's what we're going to have first. I'm going to get everything else ready. So 9 Vals. I believe these are singles because of course they are. Oh no, they're not. We got triples in here of those. Never mind. Three, 6, 9. The Vals are bombers as well, so we're gonna have a lot of bombers we're taking shots at here. And then we need to get the 18 zeros ready, including our double ace. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. 15, 17, 18. Let's see if there's a double ace shit. Here we go. Perfect. And we'll put the zeros. We'll put the zeros off to the side since they'll be joining the party a little bit later. Delightful. Seems clear that this Japanese raid is meant to be a knockout blow. That's kind of what I'm gathering out of this as well. There was a part of me that was hoping the intel wasn't accurate, but looks like I'm hoping we brought enough firepower to the dance for this one. We had a few planes skid off on the aircraft, or on the what's the word I want, on the runway, but looks like we've still brought plenty to the dance. And this is where I'm hoping that the decision to roll a close range interception so we can hopefully hack some of these bombers out of the sky is going to help us out. I'm actually going to add a D8 to the mix for my unit selector. But first order of business, we've got our dogfight against these bombers. Actually, we're going to be dogfighting versus... Which ones are we going to go after? The Vals are not as tough, so I'm probably going to go after them first, and then hopefully we can. So we're on close range interception. So yeah, I think we're going to go after the Vals first because they're not going to take as much damage here. So we're in a dogfight versus the Vals. But I believe the Bettys get to roll as well for their attacks. Do I have that straight, Thomas? I'm hoping I do. But I'd rather make sure I've got it straight. But I think that's going to be the plan. So we'll dogfight versus the Vals. The Wildcats, we'll roll in blue dice. So for that, we need... Let me make sure we didn't have any flight leaders or... Okay, we do have another flight leader. That's going to be on... Here we go. Flight leader will be on this element. So we have 8, 9, 10d6. Because the flight leaders and the XOs get 1d6, get an extra d6. We're going to have a lot of dice going into this pool. So 5... 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's going to be for the F4Fs. The Vals are going to roll. Vals are going to roll in orange, and they get 3d6. Come on. They roll only based on the groupings. If we don't attack the Bettys, then they're going on to Henderson, so yikes. So we probably should send a few, we probably should split it up a little bit and have elements take a shot and have some go after the Bettys each is kind of what I'm getting out of that. So I think rather than do that, I think rather than have everybody... Okay, so change of plans. I think we're going to have... So I think here's how we're going to split it up. We're going to have, I'm going to divide it this way. So these 4 elements are going to go after the Bettys, and then these 4, so you would set this up with a gap between the Bettys and the Vals, and then put all of the Wildcats next to the Vals. But I'm changing my mind on that because I don't think I want anybody trying to get into Henderson Field. So I think we'll do it like that. Something to that effect. Once the zeros get involved, we have to engage them with at least one element. So basically, whatever that element is going to end up being a sacrifice. So if we send just one element against the zeros, they're going to end up being a sacrificial lamb. And even though combat is technically simultaneous, I don't want to roll this mess of dice all at the same time. That's actually a tempting idea. Sacrifice a pair of wildcats against the zeros, and then take another shot at the bombers. But I think I want to see what kind of damage I do to the bombers first. Now, technically, combat is all simultaneous on this, but there is no way I'm rolling that many dice at the same time. We would be rolling a total of, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 dice at the same time. Let's not do that. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to send... Actually, now we've got to note the number on the elements. So that one's got the flight leader in it. We'll call that 5. The XO one is 23. Then we'll go 19 for Fern and Miller, 14. And you normally roll by groups that are engaged. And 13. Then 20, and 18. 16. Actually, wait a second. I got to change something here. Because I've got the one that's alone. That's Hell. So he's going to go 13. And then this one is going to be 9. So we're going to go F4, F23. So it isn't supposed to be simultaneous, rather simultaneous within each set of groups. So essentially the way I've got this set up, we'd roll for this top group first, and then this group down here, correct? I'm trying to make sure I get this as straight as I can, because I've never had a dogfight this complicated before in my playthroughs, which you'd probably know if you've been following this on the channel. Roll the 4 elements of Wildcats versus the 6 show ties of Betties. All right, so let's do that. So we've got 23. Actually, we've got, hold on, 5, 19, 14, 13 versus the Betties. And those ones are going to roll. So we're going to roll 5 blue D6 for the Wildcats. And then we'll grab 6 red D6 for the show ties of Betties. We hit on a 5+ and defend on a 3 down. They hit on a 6 and defend on a 2+. So let's see what we roll for our Wildcats versus the Betties. So blue, F4F, red, Betties. Give that a nice, good shake. Yowza. We're going to, well, actually, this probably doesn't end up being too bad for us. So did we get everything through? Yes, we did. So we took out, so they roll a 1, they roll 3 1s, a 5 and 2 5s and a 6. We roll 2, 4, 5, 6, 6. So they actually rolled 3 defends out of that. They rolled a hit and 3 defends. Whereas we rolled a 2, 4, 5, 5, 6. So we pick up 3 hits and a defend. Which basically means everything washes out against the Betties. Let's see what we can do with the Vals, though. We sent F4F 23, 18, 16, and 9 versus the Vals. We'll roll it the same way. Except this time the Vals still hit on a 6, but they defend on a 1. So hopefully we can do damage to the valves. We've still got our same 5d6s. And then our 3 again, and then our 3 for the valves. Let's see what we get here. So the Bettys ended up doing absolutely nothing. Oop, get that one in there, Phoenix. Okay, so this time they roll a 1, 2, and a 6, which will turn into 1 hit and 1 defend. And then we roll a 2, 3 3s, and a 5. So that'll also be, I believe that's also 1 hit and 3 defends. Which turns into absolutely nothing happening in that round of air combat. So now the zeros join the party. That is highly gross. So I think here what we're going to do is just to minimize the damage. I think we're going to end up sacrificing hell we're basically going to sacrifice hell to the zeros so the other guys can take a shot at the Bettys. I mean, it's a hard decision to make, but there's a war on in case you didn't notice. So now we're in task box 2. Before we do that, we also gain our other 3 pilots since they're now joining the party. I imagine there's no chance that the bombers are going to be returning to base since we basically we didn't even really, I was going to say we tickled them, but we didn't even really do that. So now we've got our second round of dogfighting. So now Sub-Zero is going to go to Hell's Wing. So that'll be number 13. Sub-Zero will go to Hell's Wing on 13. And now we've got Cook and Barnes joining the party, so we don't need that element. And now we've got Cook and Barnes joining the party on task box, or on element 2. So now, task box 2, zeros join the party. So now what do we want to do here in task box 2? Let's see. Well, the likelihood is I think we're just going to sacrifice Cook and Barnes to the zeros so everybody else can take another shot at the bombers. Hopefully we can get a little better result. Okay, so I wouldn't combine the single plane Wildcats. I was just doing it that way to make it easier. So Sub-Zero does not go to Hell's Wing, which means we do need a separate single element of Wildcats, which will be 15. That's what made the most sense to me logically, but I stand corrected on that. So I think you would only combine right after takeoff. Okay. So apparently I'm being an idiot on that. Anywho, that brings us back to our problem of what do we do here? And I believe a single plane would count as being an element that I could sacrifice to the zeros. So I'm thinking that's probably the best idea. That way I can limit the damage, because I know whoever I send against the zeros does not stand a snowball's chance in hell of getting out of this. So maybe the hope is we send a single plane against the zeros, expecting him to go toodaloo, and just try to do as much damage to the bombers as we can. So I think that's what we're going to do. I think just to make our lives easier. Not an idiot. I remembered the concept, just that I did it in the wrong place. I knew they combined after takeoff. I thought they combined when they I thought they combined as well when the pilots skidded off. But coming back to our battle, I think we're going to have Sub-Zero sacrifice himself to the Zeros. The question is, are we going to send Cook and Barnes in there as well? I'm not in love with that idea at all. So, do we try to take a bunch of Zeros with us is the question. Like I said, I really want to limit the damage as much as I can here. So I think that's probably the best idea. Then we'll have Cook and Barnes join the party going after the placing in groups is really important visually. Then you see how it plays out and what to roll when. That's why you put the attacking planes right up against the defending. Right. So I still have Cook and Barnes on element 2 that I'm trying to decide what I want to do. And the problem is with an engagement like this, it's kind of hard to get the separation here. I've got a rough separation of the bombers and the Zeros here, so hopefully it's all making sense. I think we'll send Cook and Barnes. It's only 1 victory point if we lose the Wildcats, so... And we could take some Zeros with us as well. The bombers are the bigger prize, that's for sure. The name of the pilot taking on all those Zeros alone. That is going to be that's Sub-Zero taking on all of those Zeros alone. Fortunately, he hasn't... I don't think he's done anything in terms of... No, he doesn't have any kills to his credit. I wouldn't be sending Shadow, for instance, alone against those Zeros. I'd rather send... I don't want to say I'm sending a nobody out there, because somebody's got to engage those Zeros. But I don't want to send somebody close to ace status against all those Zeros when they're likely to get swarmed. So I think my plan here is going to be, what do I want to do with Cook and Barnes? That's still the question. That guy's going to deserve the Congressional Medal of Honor when this is over. Yeah, he will definitely get that Congressional Medal of Honor. But I'm still trying to decide what to do with Cook and Barnes. I think the better plan here, I think the plan with him is we're going to have him join up against the Bettys, because those are the bigger prize. So we'll start off, well, let's go, there's probably a specific order how I'm supposed to roll these. Like, I imagine I'm supposed to roll the Zeros first. That seems way too likely. So yeah, we'll have to roll the Zeros first. So this will be 15 versus the Zeros. If Sub-Zero survives this, it's going to be a miracle. All right, so we've got 1 blue D6 for Sub-Zero versus, let's see, at least 6, probably 7. Double aces get 2d6. So that's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9 d6. No specific order, just so that I have to roll them all before the next task box begins. Well, we're just going to get this. We're just going to get Sub-Zero getting blasted out of the sky out of the way before we get to the bombers. So 3, 6, 9. And I'm going to throw in an orange die as well, since I am very much expecting Sub-Zero to be getting bailed out, so I have to bail out here. So that's just going to save myself a little bit of trouble. Let's see, okay. So we finished rolling that. Let's see, so Sub-Zero rolled 1, which is a defend. Almost like he's putting his fingers up saying, "Don't kill me!" Let's see, the Zeros roll roll 3 2s. Let's see, 3 2s, a 3, 4, 5, and 3 6s. And in the And in news that'll probably shock everybody here the least, the Zeros pick up 5 hits, and Sub-Zero does bail out. Fortunately, the orange die is a 1, so Sub-Zero will bail out. Don't ask me how he survived. So there's at least a snowball's chance in hell. Well, maybe there's an Iceman's chance in hell, because if you know Mortal Kombat, you know Sub-Zero is an ice ninja. So maybe he'll survive, but I'll be not betting on that. So now let's go to the fight for... So Sub-Zero's been shot down in probably the least shocking news that we've had today so far. So now let's go to the... Let's go to the Vals next. So that'll be F4F 23, 18, 16, 9 versus the Vals. Blue, red. So we've got 5d6 for the... So that's the blue dice for the Wildcats versus 3 red for the Vals. And unfortunately, Sub-Zero couldn't take anybody with him, but with the odds he was facing, there was no way he was going to be getting out of that a lot. Well, there was no way he was coming out of that. But let's see what happens with the Wildcats against the Vals. All right, so the Vals roll 2, 3, 5, which is good for absolutely nothing for them. Whereas we roll a 2 and 4 3s. You've got to be kidding me. That's nothing. That's 4 defense for us. But it's beginning to look like Sub-Zero's sacrifice is going to be for nothing. So now we've got 2, 5, 19, 14, and 13 versus the Bettys. That was terrible. You are telling me on that one, Thomas. And you know my dice rolls have been truly terrible. So let's see. So we've got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We actually get 66 now, since Cook and Barnes have joined the party. So we've got the 66 in blue, an extra D6 because we've got a flight leader in there, against the 66 elements of Betty's. Once again, they hit on a 6 and defend on a 2. Let's see if the Wildcats against the Bettys have any better luck. Probably not. Well, I was going to say maybe not much better luck, but the show ties of Betty's roll a 1, 2 4s, a 5, and 2 6s. So a 1, 2 4s. What is that? A 5 and 2 6s. So they'll pick up 2 hits and 1 defend. Whereas we pick up 2 2s, 3, 4, and 2 6s. So we pick up 2 hits and 3 defends. So after all of that mess, we managed to shoot down all of 1 Val, or 1 Betty, I should say. So we net 1 hit out of that whole mess. 1 US hit for 4 VP. So now we need to see who picked it up. We'll get this whole mess of dice out. Let's see. So we'll need the blue die for the element and the orange die for which pilot scores the hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is a reroll. And the orange die is for which one in the element scores the hit. That's a 1. And the wingman in element 2 scores the hit. So that will be Barnes, actually, who picks up that hit. One Betty, flaming on its wing, drops out of formation and then explodes. And massive cheers erupted from the U.S. cockpit. So now we have task box 3, where now Henderson Field can actually join the party. So first up, we'll have Henderson Field's anti-air. We'll see if we can manage to knock this down. We need a 6 to. We need 6s to hit. So we've got our 3D 6s. As I cannot stop dropping dice today. An RTB check with all of a -1 modifier. Moving. It doesn't look like there's an RTB check in here though. And moving into task box 3. I thought it was at the start of the task. I thought it was at the start of the task box if we lost something. So it looks like there's a. Let me see how return to base works, because I was not expecting to shoot anybody down in that one. Morning, Jester. Hopefully everything's well with the doctor's office. Let's see. Return to base check. Roll a d6 and add 1 for each aircraft lost in combat, which was all of 1. So we have to roll a 6 for return to base to even blip. Which you guys can feel free to laugh at the chances that I'm getting a return to base out of this. You guys can see that dice roll, right? So so it's the Bettys that have to do an RTB check. So that surprisingly is a 6 plus 1 is a 7. So it looks like the Bettys are going to jettison their. So if I'm understanding that correctly, 6 plus 1 is a 7. So would it only be the Bettys that jettison and return to base, or do the Vals go with them? I'm assuming the Bettys would return alone. Obviously, when the dice need to have my back, they do. Most of the time they don't, but when the chips are really down, apparently they come through for me. Surprisingly, in the Japanese bomber formation. So it looks like the Bettys panic and they'll return to base alone. At least that's what I'm presuming. The Zeros and the Vals fly on toward Henderson. That's what I thought. So the Bettys can definitely F off. And now it might make it a little easier to get that gap again. So now we're back to a situation where we're going to have to sacrifice somebody to the Zeros. I definitely don't want to send Cook and Barnes now as sacrificial lambs, now that we've got Barnes with a decent kill in there. So I think instead we're going to send. First we got to decide how everything goes. So let's actually send Hell up against the Zeros. And then we'll have Cook and Barnes join. Actually, if we start adding some numbers, we might have a chance to take down some of the Wildcats. But I do want to try to hack more of these Vals out of the sky. So hopefully we can do some damage on the way to Henderson Field first, or over top of Henderson Field first. So now we're into task box 3, and we start off with our anti-air. 3d6 from Henderson, and they need a 6 to hit. Well, we're definitely going to send the Westing element against the Vals. Let's see if it is going to be another. There's going to be another lone wildcat. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I think we're going to have Hell make another one-man stand against the zeros, and then we'll try to have everybody hack away, try to take the Vals out of the sky. So we'll start off with the anti-air, though. How does the anti-air target, though? Anti-air. Determine which element is affected. Okay. So it looks like we have to roll that. We probably roll that randomly to see who's affected. So I think rather than the D8 I've got here, I'm going to need a D10 for element selection. We'll grab one of the, not that one. We'll grab one of my Call of Cthulhu dice. All right. Let's see what we can do with anti-air. That's a 3, 5, and a 6 for one hit. I think the only one that can't be hit by anti-air is probably the double ace. So we'll roll to see which element is affected. So I'm assuming the double ace can't be affected. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 is a reroll. That's a 7, so this element affected. And they don't defend, so they lose a bomber on anti-air. Makes 2 Congressional Medal of Honor citation submissions going to Sync Pack for decision. I'm really playing some daring operations befitting of true Marines. Well, bear in mind there's a chance that at least one of our pilots survived. Sub-Zero may still come out of this carnage when it's all said and done. But now we're going to roll for the... Now we're going to send our lone wildcat, that's Hell, up against all of those zeros. I'm also trying to limit... The reason I'm doing it this way is I'm also trying to limit the damage. Because I don't want to... I'm basically trying to be very protective of my planes here. So once again, we've got 6, 7, 8, 9 red D6 going up against 1D6 for... Going up against Hell's 1D6. 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yep. Against 1 for Hell. Actually, I'm just going to throw in the orange D6 now, since I'm expecting Hell to need to bail out as well. And, yeah, he does not... Actually, he would defend on the 4, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than enough hits in there, because they hit on a 4, and, yeah. Let's see, I see a 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 4s, 2 5s, and 2 6s. Right? Yeah, 2 4s, 2 5s, 2 6s. So that is a total of 2, 4, 6 hits. So Hell, with a 3, is going to bail out. Yes, this is very much the most epic battle of the campaign so far. Hopefully we're not going to run into another battle like this, but I'm probably going to make an executive decision after this one, because we've already been going for over 2 hours. I think I'm going to make an executive decision that even if the roll comes up as an additional mission after this one, I'm going to say, no, we're not rolling for anything else. We're just going to call it a mission after that. So Hell bails out, and now we've got everybody else. So we've got 14. So F4F, 14, 5, 23, 18, 2, 19, 16, and 9 against the vowels. We've got our 3 D6s, or 3 red D6s for the vowels. And we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blue D6 for the Wildcats. So there's 6 and the other 4 going in. Hopefully we can do a lot of damage here. They hit on a 6, defend on a 1. We hit on a 5, defend on a 3. So he got very much obliterated. All right, that's a 1-3-5 for the Japanese, which they pick up. They pick up 1 defend. As for us, we hit on a 5 we established, so we roll 2 3s, 1, 2, 3 4s, 5 5, 2 5s and 2 6s, which will score us a total of 3. Actually, that'll be a total of 4 hits and 3 defends. So we'd actually net out to a total of 3 hits. So we obliterate an entire element of vowels. And then they probably still get to bomb when it's all said and done. Yeah, so whatever's left will get to bomb. I imagine it's not going to be just as simple as, hey, take an entire element off the map. But I think that's probably what I'm going to do. How do you determine hits? Yeah, so we've done... Those vowels are facing some pretty extreme odds, and now I'm just figuring out how to resolve all the math from it. I think it probably just is as simple as take an element of vowels off the map, because we scored 3 hits. So now we have to assign 3 hits. And actually here I do need the D8 for hit resolution. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I've got a D6 in there as well for which one in the element gets the hit. Let's see. Would I give credit for the hits first, or looks like I'd have them try to return to base? Okay. So with the +3. That's a 1 + 3 is 4, so the vowels are going to hang around. So now we give credit for the hits. Let's see, that's element 6, so that's 19. Who is in that element? That one was Fern picking up a hit. Next element, or next hit. That's element 1. That's not the flight leader, so that's 14. That will be Netrunner picking up that hit. And for our last hit, is element 6. Fern picks up a second hit today. Committed Japanese, typical. The commander of the Betty formation is going to receive a serious dressing down. Assuming they even let him survive, there's pretty good chance I would think that the Japanese would make him perform harakiri coming out of that. So everybody gets to bomb and strafe coming out of that. So we'll roll right. So, which the bombing is going to come at -1, I believe. So bombing is going to be at a -1, and that will be on orange dice. And the strafing for the zeros will be on red. We can get that out of the way. Actually, do they get to strafe at this point? Or because we engaged, they probably would still. So bombing. Yes, okay. So the Betties, so the Vals need a 4 to hit on bombing. They get, so the zeros don't strafe. Okay, so the zeros don't strafe, but the Vals will, they have to stay up high to try to defend the Vals, probably because they don't know if we've got more coming at them. So they're actually only rolling 2 dice and at a -1 roll. So presumably the Vals aren't going to get anywhere near Henderson Field. That's a 1 and a 5 minus, the 5 minus 1 is a 4. Technically it would be a 0 and a 4, but I'm pretty sure you can't go any lower than 1. So no hits. And then as we try to chase them off, now we've got to send an actual element against the zeros. So we netted out another, so that was another 12 victory points for the US on the Vals. Right? Yes. All right, so now we've got our last task box. Once again, we're going to have to sacrifice an element to the zeros. So I think we're going to send... do we want to stay or break off? Given the choice, I'd rather break off at this point. We've inflicted a lot of damage, and I don't want to send anybody needlessly against the zeros. Because right now I feel like I'd just be sacrificing planes for the sake of keeping everybody alive. So I think here it's probably a much better idea to break off than try to chase them off, rather than try to continue in pursuit. At least that's my opinion of the situation. You'll probably feel a little bit different about that. So presumably I now start getting ready for landing. I will go ahead and start making notes for that, while Historic Wings tells me why I'm doing something wrong in terms of wanting to break off. Let's see, so who did we end up with? That's kind of what I was thinking, that it was going to be a better idea right now to break off rather than sacrifice anybody needlessly. And once again, once I get through landings, I'm making an executive decision that I'm skipping phase 11 for the additional mission, and I'm saying no mission, because that one was, whew, that was quite the mission. Yeah, I don't think we need to get cute here, and actually, as long as nothing goes crazy when we get everybody back to base, we're probably just gonna have the win for the day locked up, or the win for the week locked up. Let's see, that was element 2. Was cooking. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cook and Barnes. I want to make sure I've got everybody accounted for here. Page and Scarborough. Let's see, element 9 was Hunter and Fox. Let's see, we got Cook and Barnes accounted for already. 23 is still up, yep, so that's Barber and Knox. Should be one more element I haven't accounted for yet. Probably, oh, Bright and Nightmare. Okay. Sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure we got everything there. So now we're into landings, and we've got another +1 on the, got a +1 on the landing once again. So now let's start getting these guys on the ground. Netrunner up first. Eight +1 is 9. He's on the ground. Over to Mosier. As I send the other blue die flying. That's a 3 +1 is 4. He's going to have problems. Crash. Aircraft damaged. And a light wound out for 3 days. Westing. Six +1 is 7. He's on the ground. Pox. Tell you what, coming out of this mission, this is going to be quite the after-action report. Eight +1 is 9. He's on the ground. And I am sweating like crazy in here. Let me see if it's too windy out here. That's not terrible. Let me see what I think with the window open. We'll give that a little bit to percolate as we turn to Fern's landing. Fern had better get his ass on the ground. We've got him 2 kills. That's a 7 +1 is 8. Fern is on the ground. Miller. Eleven +1 is 12. Miller's on the ground. Cook. Nine +1 is 10. Cook is on the ground. Wright. Eight +1 is 9. They're on the ground. Barnes. Eight +1 is 9. Also on the ground. Page. The CB chief takes another long pull on his cigar. The runway is fine. My pilots just need more training. Would you like to explain? Well, actually, we'll see if I'm going to skin him alive after that one, because we still have more pilots trying to get on the ground. Page with a 5. That'll be a crash. Insignificant damage. And no injury. Scarborough. 6 plus 1 is 7. Scarborough's on the ground. Hunter. Get in there. That's a 7 plus 1 is 8. Hunter's on the ground. Fox. Nine plus 1 is 10. Fox is on the ground. Barber. Boxcars plus 1 is 13. Also on the ground. Knox. Six plus 1 is 7. Knox is on the ground. And Nightmare. Six plus 1 is 7. Nightmare's on the ground. And as I said, we're not going on any additional missions. There's no need to get cute today after that battle. But just for giggles, we'll roll to see if there's an additional mission anyway. Thankfully, there is not. After everything we went through today, that is very welcome. I'll go ahead and start picking this up, and then we'll go into post-flight detail. So now I don't need these dice anymore. I suppose I'll let the CB Chief live this time. Hopefully, once we get through all of the after mission stuff, you guys will stick around for a little bit as we crack the advent calendar for the day. If you haven't been around for the channel, we are going through an advent calendar on the channel, since I borrowed the name for the advent of the Phoenix from the idea of an advent calendar, so I figured it might be fun to actually crack an advent calendar on the channel. So we'll be doing that after I get the after action report written up. Oop, that can go back in here. And now we're into after action, so disease and infections. Yes, he mashes out his cigar and quips, "I have half a mind to send the crew to Espiritu for some R&R. No time for that, because we got to get ready for another week of action." Bring that over here. And then we're rolling on our post-flight tables for anybody new. We're going to be going through these tables in order. First up, we've got the disease and infections table. That's a 6, no infections, thank goodness. Next up, we've got Pistol Pete. Another high roll, please. That's a 3. 3 salvos, but no hits. That wasn't high, but it's high enough to get us out of trouble. Next up, Washing Machine Charlie. That's a 4, no hits this time. Night Infiltration. Excuse me. 3 should be good for no attempt. And we've got naval bombardment. I also have to roll injury mods for Sub-Zero and Hell, most likely. Yes. I'll go back and deal with that in a minute. Uh-oh. The naval bombardment's active tonight, so we've got a D6 plus 4 hits. No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Whammy! That's another 9 hits. Great. The Imperial Japanese Navy can't just let us celebrate, can they? Let's see. So we'll roll blue for the actual hit on the hit resolution table. So I'll show you guys the table that we're rolling on. We'll roll blue for the hit resolution table. Yes, it could, but let's hope not. Then I'll grab a teal die for any secondary result. And then it should be... Then we'll roll for... We'll roll an orange die for a third result if we need that. So I'm just going to make some notes here in my logbook. Blue equals hit. Teal equals second result. Orange equals third result. This could possibly change the outcome of the day, but also temper how much we're celebrating. Let's see what we've got here. We've got 9 hits we've got to go through. A 3 is an aircraft destroyed. The 6 is going to be taking out. So it would have been 1-2 for a Wildcat, 3-4 for a Dauntless, and 5-6 for an Airacobra. So of course we lose an Airacobra, because that's wonderful. So that's going to be another. That's going to be another, I believe, 1 VP to the Japanese, because that's a great way to start. A 5 is insignificant damage. So because the blue die gave me an insignificant damage hit, I ignore the other 2 dice in there. That's a 3 for a Dauntless being taken out. I'll actually need that. All right, so we've got 6 more hits to go through. This day is far from over. So we're on naval bombardment. This time it's a Wildcat destroyed. So the Imperial Japanese Navy has now taken out 1 of every plane that we have on Guadalcanal. That's great. A 4 is the runway taking a hit. Let's see, a 1 is fuel, losing 4 fuel. We've got 3 hits left. Another Airacobra getting taken out. Jeez Louise. I think the Imperial Japanese Navy was out for revenge after that mission. That's another runway hit. And our last hit. Runway again. So now our runway is basically Swiss cheese going into our next mission day. So now we're going to roll for a random event. And the way I'm going to roll that is I'm going to reach over here, get another teal die out. I'll use blue to determine if there's an event. If the blue die is not a 1 or a 2, then I'm going to ignore the teal dice. That's a 4, so no random event. But we've got to roll for injuries for both Sub-Zero and Hell. So we'll deal with that here. So we're on table 5-2 now in the book for pilot injury. Yeah. All right, so blue is for Sub-Zero. 3 is insignificant injury. Hell has got a light injury. Then Hell was light -1. Okay, so we've got Sub-Zero and Hell MIA. We'll roll them the same way. Sub-Zero blue, Hell and teal. I'd prefer high rolls for both of them for obvious reasons. All right, that's a 3 and a 6. So Sub-Zero's missing, but Hell returns to duty. And now after all of that, now we have to tally up victory points for the day. So US VP versus Japanese VP. Japanese picked up 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, let's see. Should be 5. I believe for the Wildcat, for the hits they inflicted on Zero score 1 victory point. So 5, 6. And I think that's it for the Japanese. The US picked up a lot more than that, I'm sure. Let's see. So all of that ended up being 4. 4. Let's see. 4, 16. Should be more than that, I thought, for the US. Maybe not. 4. It looks like 16 victory points for the US. That'll be a win for the day and for the week. So our new modifier, or our new status on the track, is now America advancing. And now that I've got that very long mission straight, this is going to be quite the after-action report, so bear with me while I type all of this up. As usual, when I type up an after-action report, I'm going to put the stream into Be Right Back, but I will be around to interact with chat as I'm going through everything here. So I'm just going to look through my email real quick, make sure there's nothing I need to catch up on. And we are all clear there. So yeah, as usual, I'll put this, like I said, I'll put the stream into Be Right Back, but I will be around to interact with chat while I type this whole thing up. Let's start this from who went out and came back on the first part of the mission. We'll write this from, yeah, we'll go from Lieutenant Talon's perspective. A few other comments. Wrote a few other comments above. Don't know if I saw those. I saw those. I might end up using some of those as I'm writing up the after action report, but we'll see. Closer. The CB chief stalked back into the pagoda. You hotshot boys couldn't sink more Japanese ships. Now my boys had to cancel their R&R and get to fixing the runways. Again. Would you rather have R&R or would you rather go home to your families? I don't want to hear it. That's my response to the CB chief. Anywho, where was I? Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot we had the Stanley get shot down. So that wouldn't have impacted how we ended up on the day. Yeah. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. Actually, if anything, looks like we would have won by even more. Okay, so mm, Actually, no. Okay. Sorry for the long delay writing up the after action report, but this one is going to be a long one. So let's tab back in and we'll go through the after action report for September 3rd, 1942. We're starting this from Lieutenant Talon's perspective. A quiet, cloudy morning dawned on the island. We were just getting a card game going when the call to arms came and we all raced to the pagoda. Sparky apparently had some good intel for a sea mission coming in. The new radar plot, no idea what that is, but it's supposed to help with our intel, also put in some work. It was reported that we had a cruiser, 3 destroyers, and 2 transports coming in. I was up with Nightwing on my wing. In addition, Carter from my squadron went up with Matrix on his wing. From the VB6 group, Flight Leader Young went up with Rain on his wing, and CO Sage went up with Cactus on his wing. And from the Dauntless group, CO Stanley went up with Lieutenant Monroe on his wing. Flight Leader Berg went up with Meyer on his wing. Robinson went up with Carter on his, and Downs went up with Perez on his wing. Takeoffs were mostly good, though Martinez, Sage, Berg, Carter, and Matrix all crashed. Mostly insignificant injuries, but we also had Meyer, Robinson, and Perez skid off to join us later. We had to reform up, though I ended up with Nightwing as planned. I saw Stanley and Monroe also form up as planned, but Young went to Downs' wing. Rain and Cactus also formed up. Robinson and Meyer would join us later, and Perez would also be alone. When we got over the ocean, we saw the intel had been accurate, and soon it was time to fight. The destroyers inflicted a pair of hits. Rain managed to defend his, but Stanley went down, and in that fireball, he wouldn't have survived. After that, we went to work on the cruiser. I scored a hit with one of my bombs, then later stitched up the cruiser. I saw Monroe's bomb dig deep and touch off an ammo cache on that cruiser. We turned and headed for home after that. Mostly good landings, but there was some damage. We had a few crashes, but Downs was out for 1 day, Robinson was out for 2 days, and Nightwing was out for 4 days. I saw Cactus land badly before I got down, and I heard he had to be transferred out. Switching to XO Barber's perspective. After the sea mission came back, we were working on maintenance for the Wildcats when Sparky ran for Ruff with a report of another mission. The weather cleared up very well, so we were sure it was an air mission. The intel wasn't as good for this one, but we still had a few reports of what the Japanese were intending as a knockout blow coming at us. They were sending 12 Bettys, 9 Vals, and 18 Zeros with a double ace, aka everything but the kitchen sink, at us. This one was all hands on deck for the Wildcats, and everyone wanted to go up. Almost every Wildcat pilot who could go up did. Apparently, even Shadow wanted to go up, but he was still under the weather, and I heard later that Ruff had to kick his ass for even looking at the pagoda while he was sick. Mostly no problems on takeoffs. When we got airborne, the intel was accurate, and we immediately jumped in after the Vals. Nothing ultimately happened, but when the Zeros came in, Sub-Zero went against them alone, knowing the overwhelming odds he was facing. Unfortunately, his sacrifice was in vain, as we couldn't do any damage to the Vals, but the Bettys did take a hit, and shockingly, the Bettys actually jettisoned their bombs and returned to base. After that, we were fighting over Henderson Field as the anti-air took out a Val. Hell went alone against the Zeros so we could go after the Vals. Hell got shot down, to the surprise of, well, no one, but we were able to make his sacrifice count as we knocked out 3 Vals. These Vals were more stubborn than the Bettys, though, and they hung around, thankfully inflicting no damage. After that, we all broke off. Landings were once again mostly good, aside from Mosier crashing and being out for 3 days. Now switching over to CO Ruff's perspective. Thankfully, Sparky didn't interrupt my kicking Shadow's ass for looking at the pagoda in his shape with another mission. No one else got sick, which I was thankful for. Pistol Pete launched a few shots at us, but nothing major. Washing Machine Charlie and Night Infiltration were quiet, but the Imperial Japanese Navy was very active, inflicting a lot of damage. They knocked out 2 Airacobras, a Dauntless, a Wildcat, some fuel, and landed several hits to the runway. Apparently the runway wants to do its best impression of Swiss cheese again. Everything else was quiet, though to our relief, Hell returned to duty. Sub-Zero was still missing, but he's tough. After all of that, we managed to win on the day and the week. Progress is being made, but there's still a lot to do. And that will do it for this very long stream of MAG-23 Guadalcanal. I am still very much enjoying watching the narrative unfold, and now it seems like everybody's starting to get in on the action. Let me see if I've got any new pilots coming in that I might want to show off on the 4th of September. No, does not look like it. We do not have anybody new coming in. Okay. So that's all done there. Not quite done on the day, though. Let's get this cleaned up, and we'll crack the advent calendar for today. So another big win on the day for another big win on the day for the U.S. as we're slowly working on pushing the Japanese back. But I'm expecting, as much as I don't like the idea of starting a week with a loss, I think I'd rather take a loss on the week and let the runway get repaired. I'd rather take a loss to start the week and get the runway repaired than try to fly it and potentially start having our pilots flipping their planes, because I don't think we're going to have any kind of weather modifier on week 3. Ugh. Now we start getting heavy fog. That's going to start being a problem. So yeah, I definitely do not at all want to let the pilots fly if I can remotely avoid it. Because now that heavy fog starts being a thing, I really don't want to add that to our problems. So just kind of rambling a little bit there. But yeah, that's my expectation right now, is that we're going to end up starting week 3 with a loss. Take a short-term loss to hopefully inflict a lot more long-term damage. Hopefully you guys are enjoying me putting my own little narrative touches on this game. That's the thing I really like about a lot of these games, is the ability to kind of put that own little touch on that. Very smart decision making. Glad the expert at the game thinks so. I'm trying to keep the AARs short and descriptive. That's actually something I was struggling a little bit with on Tally Ho, and I think we talked about this in the comment section for one of those videos, is, for me at least, the narrative in that game, the narrative in Tally Ho doesn't jump out for me as much as it does here in Guadalcanal. And I think a lot of that is the perspective that the narrative is being written in for Tally Ho, where Tally Ho is more the 10,000-foot view of the battlefield. But here, well, you're an expert at playing this game. How's that? Because after all, you did design the thing. But where was I going with my thought about the after-action reports? Oh, yes. Because of Tally Ho being essentially a 10,000-foot view where you're having to tell the story from outside the battlefield, that's where, okay, there's the other bag. That's where I don't think the narrative jumps out in Tally Ho as much as it does here. Because here you can get to individual pilots' perspectives and be able to really dig in and tell that story from actually in the trenches, well, I say in the trenches when it's really air pilots, but you guys know what I'm talking about. From the perspective of somebody who's actually in the action. That's where I'm trying to go with that. So we're just about done with cleaning up here. Try SOE Lysander. The narrative is off the charts, but that's the toughest game of them all. Very few can survive it, but if you think, act conservatively, and focus on making it home, you have a chance. I did actually try Lysander, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was that first mission going so disastrously and leaving me with a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm not really into kind of the stealth aspects of some of, well, it's weird how I feel about some of the stealth aspects. Like, one of my favorite video games of all time is a stealth game, that being Metal Gear Solid, if you're familiar with the original PlayStation from back in ye olden and ancient times. I was playing that game, God, back in like 99, I think, and that makes me feel so old that I can actually articulate 1999 as being an actual period, as actually being an actual year that I can remember in my life. So yeah. Just what I need, a reminder that I'm getting old. Okay. All right, we can put those back over here. Bring the dice tower out of my way. My comments of you thinking of a new way to do an air combat game, one with more RPG-like gameplay. So I've inspired something new. It's already underway. Well, I'm glad to hear that I'm somehow an influence. Apparently, and that's probably something I would really enjoy, is a more RPG-focused element, is a more RPG-focused game. But we are bringing this into shot. So for those of you who haven't been around the channel this last week, I decided I wanted to do something a little bit fun and show you guys that I'm not allergic to quirky fun things. So we're working through this advent calendar on the channel. So far, what we've gotten out of here is in a green and white set that's actually pretty good and pretty easy to read. We've got a D percentile so far. And on a purple and green die that is, on a purple and green set that's very hard to read, I've gotten a D12 and a D4. The D4 is actually very obnoxious because where I've got the symbol all three sides up, that's the 4. Whereas if there are two symbols up, I've got to go to this die to see what number's actually on top to see what it is. That's not a set I really like, but I'm allergic to quirky stuff. Ha ha, Jester. Anyway, let's find our 5th day on the calendar, which is down here, and we'll go ahead and crack our advent calendar open for today. So for those of you who don't know, this is an adventure calendar, Kaiju Christmas, where I'm getting 3 different sets of dice out of here. So now let's crack this open and see what we've got coming out. And we've got another D4 in the same style. So now that we know what to expect, this one's actually reasonably easy to read. It looks like our 3rd set. Once again, when all 3 symbols are up, it's a 4. And then we've got the numbers that are much easier to read and also go through the tower nice and easily. So that's also a very important thing to note there. But that will do it for probably one of the longest videos, surprisingly, during Advent of the Phoenix. Usually I can count on Guadalcanal to be like an hour-long video. But this one turned into a well over 3-hour video. Good grief. So that will do it for this playthrough of MAG-23 Guadalcanal. Later this afternoon, we're going to be visiting a space deck builder as we play Astronauts from Indie Boards and Cards. Later tonight, we'll have Game 3 of my 2017-18 Stanley Cup Finals replay, as we'll be shifting that series over to Capital One Arena for the Vegas Golden Knights visiting the Washington Capitals. That series is tied at a game apiece. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back to Historic Wings again, for hopefully a much shorter video as we play Tally Ho. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care, everyone.